Here's an uncomfortable truth: you're not watching TV. TV is watching you. You're not consuming content. You're being consumed by it. You think you're living your life, but according to Debord and the Frankfurt School, you're actually just watching a representation of life while your actual existence slips away. Welcome to the society of the spectacle, where capitalism doesn't just exploit your labor. It colonizes your consciousness and turns you into a willing participant in your own intellectual degradation. Part 1. Welcome to the spectacle, you're the product. In 1967, French Marxist philosopher Guy Debord published The Society of the Spectacle, a book consisting of 221 short theses that diagnosed a new stage of capitalism. His opening lines rework Marx's famous statement from Das Kapital. Marx said, "The wealth of societies in which the capitalist mode of production prevails presents itself as an immense accumulation of commodities." Debord said, "In societies where modern conditions of production prevail, all of life presents itself as an immense accumulation of spectacles. Everything that was directly lived has moved away into representation." Think about what this means. You're not living anymore. You're watching life happen through screens, images, and mediated experiences. You don't go to concerts to hear music, you go to record videos for Instagram. You don't travel to experience places, you travel to photograph yourself in front of landmarks. You don't have dinner with friends, you perform dinner with friends for an audience of strangers online. Direct lived experience has been replaced by representation. Being has been replaced by appearing. Reality has been replaced by spectacle. But what is the spectacle? It's not just media or television or social media. Debord's crucial insight is this: the spectacle is not a collection of images, but a social relation among people mediated by images. The spectacle is how capitalism has reorganized social life itself. It's the totality of a system where authentic human relationships have been replaced by relationships mediated through commodified images. You don't relate to other people directly anymore. You relate to their profiles, their posts, their curated presentations. And they relate to your image, not to you. This didn't happen by accident. It's the logical evolution of capitalism. Marx explained how capitalism alienates workers from their labor. You make things, but you don't own them or control how they're made. The Frankfurt School, a group of critical theorists including Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer, showed how capitalism colonizes culture, turning art and entertainment into standardized commodities. And Debord showed how capitalism's final achievement is colonizing life itself, turning your entire existence into a commodity-producing spectacle. The Frankfurt School developed these ideas in the 1940s while in exile from Nazi Germany. In their book, Dialectic of Enlightenment, Adorno and Horkheimer introduced the concept of the culture industry, the mass production of standardized cultural products designed to make people docile and obedient. They argued that films, radio, magazines, and later television weren't providing genuine culture or art. They were producing commodified pseudo-culture designed to manufacture consent and pacify the masses. The culture industry, they argued, perpetually cheats its consumers of what it perpetually promises. Every movie promises excitement but delivers only predictable formulas. Every song promises authentic emotion but delivers only calculated marketability. Every product promises satisfaction but delivers only temporary relief that generates new desires. You're on a treadmill of consumption, constantly pursuing fulfillment that capitalism systematically denies you while promising it's just one more purchase away. And here's the insidious part: this doesn't feel like oppression. You're not being forced at gunpoint to watch Netflix or scroll Instagram. You want to. You choose to. This is what makes the spectacle so powerful: it's internalized. You've been trained to surveil yourself, to produce yourself as content, to turn your own life into a commodity. You're simultaneously the product and the consumer, the surveiller and the surveilled, the exploiter and the exploited. Debord traces 3 stages in this evolution. First, under early capitalism, life was about being, having an existence, an identity, a place in the world. Second, capitalism made life about having, accumulating possessions, wealth, commodities. Third, advanced capitalism makes life about appearing, presenting an image, curating a brand, performing for others. As Debord put it, this is the decline of being into having, and having into merely appearing. You don't need to actually be successful or happy or interesting. You just need to appear that way. The image becomes more important than reality. The Frankfurt School called this the culture industry, but it's really the consciousness industry. It doesn't just sell you products. It produces your thoughts, shapes your desires, constructs your identity. They argued that consumption of easy pleasures made available by mass media renders people docile and content, no matter how difficult their economic circumstances. Give people entertainment, distraction, the illusion of choice, and they won't rebel. They won't even notice they're being exploited because the exploitation feels like freedom. And it's working brilliantly. You're more surveilled, more exploited, more controlled than any previous generation, yet you experience this as liberation. You voluntarily give corporations detailed information about your location, preferences, relationships, and thoughts. You create content for platforms that monetize your creativity while paying you nothing. You perform emotional labor to build your personal brand. You optimize yourself for maximum productivity and market value. And you call this authenticity, self-expression, freedom. The spectacle isn't some external thing you can reject. It's the water you swim in, the air you breathe. It's structured into every aspect of modern life: work, leisure, relationships, culture, politics. Debord wrote that the spectacle subjugates living men to itself to the extent that the economy has totally subjugated them. Once capitalism controlled only your labor. Now it controls your entire existence. Your life has become content. Your relationships have become networking. Your hobbies have become side hustles. Everything is commodified, everything is for sale, and you're both the seller and the product. So here we are, living in what Debord called separation perfected. Separated from each other despite constant connection. Separated from reality despite endless information. Separated from ourselves despite constant self-expression. And most disturbing, separated from the understanding that we're separated. The spectacle conceals its own operations. It makes domination feel like freedom, makes alienation feel like connection, makes stupidity feel like sophistication. Part 2. The culture industry makes you predictable. Let's get specific about how this actually works. The Frankfurt School's analysis of the culture industry explains precisely how capitalism doesn't just exploit your labor. It colonizes your mind, standardizes your thoughts, and makes you boringly predictable. And you thank it for the privilege. Adorno and Horkheimer deliberately chose the term culture industry instead of mass culture because they wanted to emphasize that culture doesn't arise spontaneously from the masses. It's manufactured by exclusive institutions and imposed from above. The culture you consume isn't your culture. It's their culture, designed to shape you into a profitable, obedient consumer. Think about the last movie you watched. Chances are it followed a predictable formula. 3-act structure. Clear heroes and villains. Conflicts neatly resolved. Nothing too challenging, nothing too disturbing, nothing that requires genuine thought. This isn't because filmmakers lack creativity. It's because the culture industry produces standardized, formulaic cultural products designed for mass appeal and rapid return on investment. Originality is risky. Formulas are safe. And capitalism doesn't reward risk. It rewards predictability. Music is the same. Most popular songs follow identical structures. Verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. They use the same chord progressions, the same production techniques, the same emotional beats. Adorno, a trained classical pianist, argued that this standardization makes music fungible. One pop song is interchangeable with another. They're not individual works of art. They're industrial products, as standardized as any commodity rolling off an assembly line. But here's what's insidious. This standardization shapes how you think. When every movie follows the same structure, you lose the ability to appreciate complexity. When every song uses the same progressions, your ear becomes dulled. When every cultural product is designed for passive consumption, you lose the capacity for active engagement, critical thinking, and genuine aesthetic experience. Adorno and Horkheimer argued that the culture industry no longer tolerated autonomous thought or deviation to any degree. Everything must fit the formula. Everything must be immediately consumable. Everything must generate profit. And slowly, insidiously, you internalize these constraints. You stop expecting originality. You become suspicious of difficulty. You want entertainment that demands nothing from you, no thought, no effort, no genuine engagement. This is how capitalism makes you dumb. Not through direct censorship or propaganda, though those exist too. Through the systematic elimination of anything that challenges you, stimulates you, or makes you think. Through the replacement of art with entertainment, culture with content, meaning with distraction. The culture industry also produces what the Frankfurt School called pseudo-individualization, the illusion of choice and uniqueness within rigid standardization. You can customize your phone case, choose your streaming service, select your playlist. But these superficial choices mask the deep uniformity underneath. Everyone's watching the same franchises, listening to algorithm-selected music, consuming the same standardized content with minor variations. Debord extends this analysis with his concept of the spectacle as total environment. It's not just that individual cultural products are standardized. It's that the spectacle itself is the main production of present-day society. It's the product of all products, giving meaning to the proliferation of commodities. The spectacle tells you what to desire, how to appear, what counts as success, what kind of life is worth living. It's the operating system running in the background of your consciousness. Consider how you experience your own life. You're constantly evaluating moments for their imageability. Is this Instagram worthy? Will this make a good story? How do I appear to others right now? You're not experiencing life directly, you're experiencing life as potential content, potential image, potential spectacle. Debord wrote, "The more he contemplates, the less he lives. The more he accepts recognizing himself in the dominant images of need, the less he understands his own existence and desires." This is profound alienation. You're alienated not just from your labor but from your own experience. Your life happens but you're not present for it because you're too busy documenting it, curating it, packaging it for consumption. And the desires you think are yours, the things you want, the life you aspire to, are actually implanted by the spectacle. You want what advertising tells you to want. You aspire to lifestyles portrayed in media. Your deepest desires are manufactured. The Frankfurt School's most disturbing insight is this: the culture industry creates false psychological needs that can only be met and satisfied by the products of capitalism. You don't naturally need the newest phone, the trending clothes, the luxury lifestyle. But the culture industry creates these needs, then sells you products to satisfy them, creating new needs in an endless cycle. You become trapped on a hedonic treadmill, constantly consuming but never satisfied because satisfaction would end consumption and kill profits. And your thinking itself becomes commodified. You consume ideas the way you consume products, quickly, superficially, moving on to the next thing. You have opinions on everything but deep understanding of nothing. You scroll through headlines but don't read articles. You like posts but don't engage meaningfully. Your attention span shrinks. Your capacity for sustained thought atrophies. You become exactly what the culture industry needs: a passive, distracted consumer incapable of challenging the system. Adorno and Horkheimer saw frightening similarities between Nazi Germany and the American culture industry. Both used mass-produced culture to create passive, homogenized populations. Both integrated consumers from above, making autonomous thought difficult. The methods differ, propaganda versus entertainment, but the result is similar: populations that don't question the system because they lack the intellectual tools and cultural resources to imagine alternatives. This isn't conspiracy. It's just capitalism doing what capitalism does, optimizing everything for profit. And it turns out the most profitable culture is standardized, predictable, and intellectually undemanding. Culture that challenges you, disturbs you, or makes you think isn't profitable because it doesn't appeal to the mass market and doesn't generate reliable returns. So you get superhero movies that gross billions while sophisticated films struggle to find audiences. You get pop music engineered for maximum catchiness while experimental music remains marginalized. You get social media designed for addictive scrolling while platforms encouraging deep discussion fail commercially. The market doesn't reward quality or substance. It rewards what's most efficiently consumable. And you, trained by years of consumption, have learned to prefer exactly that. Part 3. You're lonely in the crowd, but don't realize it. Here's a paradox. You're more connected than ever, constant messages, infinite social media, global networks, yet you're profoundly isolated. Guy Debord called this lonely crowds, and it's one of the spectacle's most powerful effects. The spectacle creates separation as its fundamental principle. Separation perfected, as Debord wrote. You think you're connecting with others, but you're actually relating to images of others while they relate to images of you. Real human connection has been replaced by mediated pseudo-connection. Debord wrote, "What binds the spectators together is no more than an irreversible relation at the very center which maintains their isolation." Think about this. You're all watching the same shows, following the same trends, participating in the same conversations, but you're doing it separately, in isolation, mediated by screens. You feel connected because you're consuming the same content, but this shared consumption replaces genuine community with what Debord calls pseudo-community, the illusion of togetherness masking profound alienation. Social media makes this painfully visible. You have hundreds or thousands of friends and followers, but how many do you actually know? How many could you call in a crisis? You share your life with an audience of semi-strangers who are simultaneously performing their own lives for you. Nobody's really connecting. Everyone's broadcasting, curating, performing. It's mutual spectatorship, not community. And this isolation serves capitalism perfectly. The Frankfurt School understood this. They argued that technologies like automobiles and television are based on isolation, and they contribute to that same isolation. Isolated individuals are easier to control and more profitable than communities. Isolated people buy more, they can't share or borrow from neighbors. They're more anxious and insecure, perfect for advertising, which promises products will solve the emotional problems isolation creates. They're less likely to organize politically, collective action requires actual community. Debord saw this as capitalism's ultimate achievement. The spectacle reunites the separate, but reunites it as separate. You're brought together through shared consumption, shared media, shared spectacles. But this bringing together maintains and even intensifies your separation. You're united as isolated consumers, not as a genuine community with shared interests and collective power. Consider how you spend your leisure time. Probably alone, consuming content on screens. Even when you're physically with others, you're often simultaneously alone with your devices. You sit in the same room but inhabit different digital worlds. And when you do interact, you're often performing for absent others. Taking photos, checking reactions, broadcasting experiences rather than experiencing them together. This is what the Frankfurt School called organized loneliness. They argued that the culture industry has one primary function: providing ideological legitimation of the existing capitalist societies and integrating individuals into its way of life. And isolated, atomized individuals are much easier to integrate and control than strong communities with solidarity and collective consciousness. The spectacle also creates what Debord called the falsification of consciousness. You're not consciously aware of your isolation because the spectacle provides constant distraction and the illusion of connection. You're too busy consuming, too overwhelmed by information, too fragmented by multitasking to notice that genuine community has disappeared. And when you do feel lonely or disconnected, the spectacle offers solutions. More consumption, more social media, more engagement with the very system causing the problem. Think about influencers and celebrities. Debord argued that in the spectacle, individuals constitute themselves in terms of celebrity image, look, and style. You model yourself after people who are themselves performing manufactured personas. You aspire to lives that don't actually exist except as images. And this identification with spectacle figures intensifies your alienation because you're connecting to fabrications, not real people. The spectacle also colonizes your inner life. You don't just feel lonely, you're alienated from yourself. As Debord put it, his own gestures are no longer his but those of another who represents them to him. Even your private thoughts and feelings are shaped by images, narratives, and scripts provided by the spectacle. You don't know what you genuinely feel or want because you've internalized so many external narratives about what you should feel and want. This is particularly visible in how people perform emotions online. Grief becomes a post. Joy becomes a photo. Anger becomes a tweet. Real feelings are immediately translated into spectacle, into content for consumption. And increasingly, people seem to feel things primarily to have something to post about. The emotion exists for the performance, not the other way around. Real feelings, unmediated by spectacle, become difficult to access or even recognize. The Frankfurt School saw this coming. They argued that the culture industry doesn't just shape what you think, it shapes how you think, what you desire, who you are. It produces subjects adapted to capitalist society, people who are comfortable being isolated consumers, who don't miss genuine community because they've never really experienced it, who find meaning in consumption because that's the only framework they've been given. And here's the really disturbing part. Resistance seems impossible. How do you resist a system that has colonized consciousness itself? Traditional Marxist theory said the working class would eventually recognize their exploitation and revolt. But what if the exploitation has become invisible? What if people experience domination as freedom, isolation as connection, stupidity as sophistication? Debord's answer was bleak. Revolutionary contestation must address not just material conditions but the separation from the means of shaping their own lives. People must first recognize they've been separated from authentic existence before they can reclaim it. But how do you achieve this recognition when the spectacle so thoroughly dominates perception and consciousness? This is why Debord and the Situationist International engaged in determined, hijacking images and media to reveal the spectacle's operations. They tried to jam the signal, create cracks in the smooth surface of the spectacle, moments where people could glimpse the reality behind the images. Whether it worked is debatable. The spectacle proved remarkably good at absorbing and neutralizing resistance. Part 4. Your rebellion is sponsored. Welcome to recuperation. Here's where things get really depressing. You think you're resisting? You think your alternative lifestyle, your critical consumption, your ironic detachment makes you immune to the spectacle? Bad news. The spectacle has already absorbed your resistance, packaged it, and sold it back to you as a commodity. Welcome to recuperation, capitalism's superpower of turning opposition into profit. The Situationists, Debord's revolutionary art collective, understood this perfectly. They watched as every countercultural movement of the 1960s was absorbed and commodified. The hippies rebelled against consumerism, and capitalism sold them tie-dye and Volkswagen vans. Punk rejected mainstream culture, and capitalism sold them designer ripped jeans at boutiques. The spectacle doesn't crush rebellion, it monetizes it. This is why Adorno was so pessimistic about popular culture's potential for resistance. He saw how easily revolutionary art becomes commodified. Jazz, which emerged from African American struggle, became elevator music. Protest songs become nostalgic classics played at corporate events. Graffiti becomes gallery art. Every time art tries to challenge the system embraces it, strips it of critical content, and sells it as edgy lifestyle branding. Consider the example Adorno and Horkheimer gave. Great works like Beethoven, Mozart, and Wagner are only used in fragmentary forms when included in advertisement. Culture that once had autonomy and critical potential becomes background music for selling products. The system doesn't need to suppress challenging art. It just decontextualizes it, fragmentizes it, and uses it to sell commodities. And this is precisely what's happened with all forms of contemporary resistance. You buy organic food, fair trade coffee, sustainable fashion. Congratulations, you're participating in ethical consumption, which is still consumption. You're not challenging capitalism. You're shopping your way to a cleaner conscience while capitalism profits from your guilt. The spectacle has successfully turned anti-capitalism into a market segment. Social media activism is the perfect example. You change your profile picture to support a cause. You share posts raising awareness. You hashtag your solidarity. You're engaged, right? You're resisting? No. You're producing content, generating engagement, feeding the algorithm, and doing absolutely nothing that threatens power. As Debord warned, the critical concept of the spectacle can be turned into one more hollow formula used to explain everything in the abstract, thus serving to reinforce the spectacular system. Even critique of the spectacle becomes spectacle. This is what the Frankfurt School meant by saying the culture industry integrates individuals into its way of life. Even your rebellion is integrated. Even your resistance is recuperated. The system is totalizing not through force but through absorption. It doesn't need to defeat you. It just commodifies your opposition and sells it back to you. Think about how corporations use social justice language in advertising. Nike runs ads about racial justice. Banks celebrate pride. Tech companies champion environmental causes. These aren't authentic commitments, they're marketing strategies. And they work because they provide the appearance of resistance without any actual challenge to power. You feel good buying from companies that share your values, even though their fundamental value is profit maximization and everything else is performance. Debord called this the diffuse spectacle, capitalism that presents itself as diverse, pluralistic, offering infinite choices and perspectives while maintaining underlying uniformity. You can be gay, straight, trans, non-binary. You can be traditional, alternative, mainstream, fringe. You can believe anything, live any lifestyle. But ultimately you must be a consumer. That's the only non-negotiable identity. Everything else can be accommodated, commodified, and sold. The Frankfurt School was criticized for being too pessimistic, for seeing no possibility of resistance. But maybe they were just honest. When the culture industry controls not just products but consciousness itself, when it shapes desires, constructs identities, and defines what counts as resistance, how do you escape? You're Neo trying to escape the Matrix, except the Matrix wrote the code running in your brain. Adorno wrote that art is dead, meaning autonomous art capable of genuine critique has been killed by commodification. Everything becomes part of the culture industry. Everything becomes marketable. Even the most radical gestures, Banksy's graffiti for example, end up in galleries owned by collectors, bought and sold as investments. The system has infinite capacity for absorption. And your own thinking has been captured. You think in categories the spectacle provides. Your dreams are colonized by advertising. Your aspirations are shaped by media. Your identity is constructed from commercial images. You're not resisting from outside the system. You're always already inside it, thinking with its tools, desiring what it tells you to desire, rebelling in ways it can profitably accommodate. This is why Debord advocated not reform but revolutionary destruction of the spectacle itself. Half measures don't work. Ethical consumption doesn't work. Raising awareness doesn't work. The spectacle absorbs everything. Only total negation, total refusal, total revolution has any chance. But how do you organize revolution when the spectacle has colonized even the concept of revolution itself, turning it into lifestyle branding and t-shirt slogans? The answer, for Debord and the situationists, was constructed situations, creating moments that rupture the spectacle, that provide direct experience unmediated by images and commodities. These couldn't be reproduced or commodified. They had to be lived directly, immediately, without documentation or representation. But even this proved difficult in practice. How do you create direct experience in a world where everything is already mediated? How do you live authentically when authenticity itself has become a brand? This is the trap. The spectacle is totalizing. Your resistance is anticipated, absorbed, commodified. Your critique strengthens the system by providing it with edgy content. Your very act of consuming this video, this essay about the spectacle, is participating in the spectacle. There's no outside. There's no pure position from which to resist. You're always already implicated, compromised, integrated. Part 5. So what now? Spoiler, it's bleak but not hopeless. Okay, so capitalism has colonized consciousness. The culture industry has made you predictable, the spectacle has isolated you while pretending to connect you, and even your resistance has been commodified. Great. Now what? Are we just fucked? Is there any hope, or should we resign ourselves to being increasingly stupid, isolated consumers until civilization collapses? Debord's answer was revolutionary. Not reformist, not incremental change, but total transformation of society. He believed the spectacle couldn't be fixed or reformed. It had to be destroyed and replaced with authentic social relations, unmediated by commodities and images. The Situationist International tried to catalyze revolution through provocative art, constructed situations, and theoretical interventions. They influenced the May 1968 uprisings in France. They tried to crack the spectacle open. It didn't work. Capitalism absorbed, adapted, continued. So where does that leave us? First, recognize what you're up against. The spectacle isn't just media or advertising. It's the totality of social relations under late capitalism. Fighting it isn't as simple as deleting social media or boycotting corporations. Those are individual gestures that don't threaten systemic power. You're not trapped in the spectacle because you made bad consumer choices. You're trapped because the spectacle is the air you breathe, the water you swim in, the operating system running society. Second, understand that awareness itself is limited. Yes, reading Debord and the Frankfurt School makes you more conscious of how the system works. But consciousness doesn't automatically translate into effective resistance. You can know you're in the matrix and still be unable to escape it. The spectacle doesn't require your ignorance. It functions perfectly well even when you understand its operations, because understanding doesn't change the material conditions that produce it. Third, recognize that individual solutions are mostly bullshit. Digital detoxes, minimalism, slow living, these can improve your life marginally, but they're not politics. They're lifestyle choices that capitalism happily accommodates and monetizes. Ethical consumption is a contradiction. There's no ethical way to participate in a fundamentally exploitative system. You can reduce harm, but you can't consume your way to liberation. So what actually works? Debord argued for collective refusal and the construction of authentic situations. Moments of direct, unmediated lived experience outside the spectacle. Create spaces where people relate as humans, not as consumers or performers. Build communities of genuine solidarity. Engage in activities that can't be commodified or turned into content. Live parts of your life completely offline, undocumented, unshared. The Frankfurt School emphasized critical consciousness and aesthetic resistance. They argued that modernist art preserving the untransfigured suffering of man could resist commodification and maintain critical distance from the system. Engage with difficult culture. Art, music, literature that demands effort, resists easy consumption, disturbs rather than comforts. Support alternative institutions that prioritize meaning over profit. But be realistic. Individual acts of resistance don't transform systems. Capitalism won't collapse because you deleted Instagram. The culture industry won't disappear because you read challenging books. The spectacle will continue churning out isolation and stupidity regardless of your personal choices. System-level problems require system-level solutions. Collective organization, political struggle, material transformation of economic relations. This is where Marxism remains relevant. The spectacle and culture industry are symptoms, not causes. They emerge from capitalist relations of production. Transform those relations. Democratize workplaces, socialize production, eliminate the profit motive, and the spectacle loses its foundation. Without capitalism's need to constantly produce consumers, without the imperative for endless profit, cultural production could serve human needs rather than accumulation. But let's be honest, revolution seems distant. Capitalism has proven remarkably resilient. The working class, far from being revolutionary subjects, are mostly integrated into the system as Debord and Adorno predicted. So what do you actually do tomorrow? Start small but collective. Find or create communities resisting commodification. These might be reading groups, skill-sharing collectives, mutual aid networks, genuinely cooperative projects. Build relationships outside consumer frameworks. Practice solidarity, not networking. Give without expecting return. Relate to people as ends, not means. Cultivate critical consciousness, but don't stop there. Yes, read theory. Yes, understand how the system works. But also act. Organize at work. Support strikes. Participate in movements demanding structural change. Consciousness without action is just sophisticated spectating. Another way to consume critique is content rather than living resistance. Reclaim time from the spectacle. Capitalism steals your time by making leisure into consumption, rest into productivity, hobbies into side hustles. Fight this. Do things that produce nothing marketable. Be gloriously unproductive. Waste time in ways that can't be monetized. This isn't selfish indulgence. It's refusing the logic that every moment must generate value. Create culture, don't just consume it. The spectacle turns everyone into passive consumers. Counter this by making things even amateurishly, even poorly. The point isn't quality, it's reclaiming creative agency. Write, draw, play music, build, garden, cook. Do it for yourself and immediate community, not for an audience or market. And recognize that this will be difficult, uncomfortable, often lonely. The spectacle provides constant distraction, easy pleasure, the illusion of connection. Rejecting it means facing boredom, difficulty, genuine emotion. It means losing the comfortable numbness of constant consumption. It means being present for your life, including its pain and emptiness. Most people can't handle this and retreat back into spectacle. Don't judge them. The system is designed to make resistance exhausting. Finally, maintain some hope without being naive. Yes, capitalism has colonized consciousness. Yes, the spectacle seems totalizing. Yes, resistance gets recuperated. But systems that seem permanent collapse. The spectacle has contradictions. It produces its own crises: environmental destruction, increasing inequality, social atomization, mental health epidemics. These create openings for transformation. So here's the unsatisfying conclusion: you're trapped in the spectacle. Capitalism is making you dumb. The culture industry has colonized your consciousness. Your resistance is constantly recuperated. But you're not helpless. Collective organization, critical consciousness, authentic communities, and structural transformation remain possible. They're just hard, uncomfortable, and unlikely to succeed in your lifetime. Welcome to Critical Theory. We promise no easy answers, no comforting illusions, no consumer-friendly solutions. Just the difficult work of understanding and resisting a system that would prefer you remain passive, isolated, and stupid. Good luck. You'll need it.